In this lecture, we'll cover the installation and setup of Git for your first launch. We'll install Git on the three main operating systems: Windows, macOS, and Linux. I'll explain why providing your name and email isn't just a formality, but an important part of your commit history. We'll configure a comfortable terminal and several useful command shortcuts so you can work efficiently from day one, rather than wasting time typing out lengthy instructions. This foundation will make your Git experience both comfortable and professional.
If you, working on Windows, the standard command prompt can cause unexpected issues when using Git, particularly with line-ending characters and file paths. Git Bash solves these problems by providing a complete Unix environment right in Windows. This means all commands will work the same as they do for your colleagues on Linux or macOS. You will avoid numerous collaboration errors and save hours of debugging time. This is especially important for new developers who are just learning version control systems.
Open your browser and navigate to the official website gitschem.com. On the home page, you will immediately see a prominent download button that automatically detects your operating system. Download the installer and run it as administrator. The first screen will present you with a license agreement. Scroll through and click Next. I recommend keeping all default settings unless you are confident about making changes.
One of the key moments during installation is selecting the right options. When configuring path, choose Use Git from the Windows command prompt. This will allow you to run Git from any command line. Next, for line ending conversion, select Checkout as is, commit Unix-style line endings. This ensures compatibility with other systems. Keep Nano as the default editor. If you are not familiar with alternatives, it's simpler for beginners. These settings are absolutely crucial for Git to function correctly in the future.
After installation, open Git Bash and type git, followed by 2 dashes and version. You should see the installed Git version displayed. Also, try the commands git status and git help. They should work without any errors. If something goes wrong, restart your terminal or check your system path settings. Windows users are all set, but what about Mac and Linux users? They have their own specifics, which we'll cover in the following sections.
Mac users have it easiest. Installing Git takes literally a minute. Open terminal and run the command brew install Git. Homebrew will automatically download the latest stable version and all necessary dependencies. If you don't have Homebrew installed yet, first run the command from their official website. After installation, Git will be completely ready to use. This is the simplest and most reliable way to install Git on macOS.
To install Git on Linux, open your terminal and enter the command corresponding to your distribution. For Ubuntu or Debian, you will use sudo apt update, followed by sudo apt install git. Fedora users should use sudo dnf install git. After entering your password, the system will install Git with all dependencies. Make sure you have administrator privileges to execute these commands. This is the standard process for most Linux distributions.
After installation, open your terminal and run git space -- version. You should see something like Git version 2.34.1. If instead you see command not found, Git wasn't added to your path. On Windows, check your installer options. On Mac and Linux, verify the installation completed without errors. Now that Git is installed, it's time to introduce yourself to the system. I'll explain how and why in the next section.
Every commit you make in Git will be signed with your name and email address. Think of it like signing an important document, but in the digital world. Without these settings, your commits will be anonymous, which causes problems when working in teams. Imagine your colleagues not being able to tell who made specific changes. This would slow down development and create confusion. While these settings are fundamental, there's another level we should discuss separately.
Open your terminal and run 2 simple commands. First, set your name. Git config, global user.name, your name. Then, set your email. Git config, global user, their email. Your email at example.com. Make sure to use the email associated with your GitHub or GitLab account. The global flag will save these settings for all your projects.
The most common mistake is a typo in the email address or using an incorrect name. As a result, your commits won't be associated with your GitHub account. This can become problematic during code reviews or with automatic notifications. While it's possible to fix the author of old commits, it requires rewriting history, an operation that can disrupt the team's workflow. Now that you've introduced yourself to the system, let's explore global settings that will help automate routine tasks.
Git offers 3 configuration levels. Examine each in turn. Global settings in Git are like your social media profile settings. They apply to all your projects and save you from entering the same information repeatedly. Without them, you'll constantly be prompted to provide your name and email for every new commit. It's as if you had to re-enter your username and password every time you opened an AP.
Let's put your profile configuration into practice. Open your terminal and run 2 commands. First, git config, global user.name, your name. Second, git config, global user.email, your email at example.com. Make sure the email matches the one you use to sign in to GitHub. These settings will be saved in the git config file in your home directory.
After configuration, it's important to verify everything saved correctly. Type git config, list. This will show all current settings. Look for the user.name and user. Email lines. They should match the values you entered. If anything's not right, simply run the configuration commands again. Remember, this information will be used to sign all your commits. Now let's move on to one of the most useful tools, editor configuration.
Git uses a 3-tier configuration system, similar to Russian nesting dolls. At the first level are system settings that apply to all users on the computer. The second level contains global settings for your user account. The third level holds local settings for a specific repository. Each subsequent level overrides the previous one. This provides flexibility. You can set general rules for all projects and override them for specific cases.
System settings are typically configured by the system administrator and apply to all computer users. For example, these might include line ending formats or character encoding settings. These settings are stored in system directories and have the lowest priority. They're usually left unchanged unless you configuring a shared workspace for development team.
Global settings are stored in your home directory and apply to all your repositories. These include your name, email, preferred editor, and command aliases. These settings override the system level. This is where you spend most of your time customizing Git to your workflow. All commands with the global flag are saved at this level. Think of it as your personal office, where everything is tailored to your preferences.
Local settings are stored separately in each repository. In the git config file, they have the highest priority and are used for project-specific configurations. For example, you can specify the remote repository URL or configure special access permissions here. These settings are copied when cloning the repository and typically don't require manual changes. Now that we've covered the configuration levels, let's move on to setting up your editor. You'll need it to write commit messages comfortably.
Git uses a text editor in 2 scenarios. When you write a commit message without the M flag and when resolving merge conflicts. Without a configured editor, Git will open your system's default application, which might not be very user-friendly. Imagine trying to write a detailed description of your changes in a basic text editor like Notepad. It's possible, but much more comfortable to use your familiar editor with syntax highlighting. The choice of editor is a matter of personal preference. The most important thing is that you feel comfortable working with it.
Let's set up your preferred editor for Git. If we are using VS Code, run the command git config, globalcore.editor code wait. The wait flag is crucial. It makes Git wait until you close the file. For other editors, the command will be similar. Specify the path to the executable and any necessary parameters. After configuration, Git will open your chosen editor when needed. Don't forget to verify your settings with Git config globalcore.editor.
The setup commands vary for different editors. If you prefer Nano, use git config globalcore.editor nano. For Vim, git config globalcore.editor vim will work. Sublime Text users may need to specify the full path to the executable. You can check your current settings with git config globalcore.editor. This will show which editor is set as default. Make sure your chosen editor is installed on your system and accessible from the command line.
Aliases are like desktop shortcuts, but for the command line. Instead of typing long command sequences every time, you can create short, memorable nicknames. This not only saves time, but also reduces the chance of typos. For example, you can use git saint instead of git status, or a short alias for viewing history. Think of it as creating your own language for working with Git, where commands sound exactly how you want them to.
Let's create your first alias for the git status command. Run in the terminal, git config, global alias status. Now instead of the full command, you can simply type git synth. This will save you several keystrokes every time you want to check the repository status. Try it now. The result will be the same as the full command. It's a small step, but it will make your work with Git noticeably more comfortable and faster.
One of the most useful aliases is for viewing commit history. Run the command git config globalalias.g log 1 graph all. Now the git lg command will show the history in a compact format with a graphical representation of branches. You will see how branches diverge and merge, much clearer than the standard output. This alias will become your faithful companion when analyzing change history. Try it now, and you'll immediately see the difference.
See all your created aliases. Use the command git config get regex alias. This will display a list of all your shortcuts. So, if you prefer a graphical interface, you can open the /.gitconfig file in any text editor. All aliases are stored in the section with square brackets alias. This is handy when you need to remember which shortcuts you've already created. Now, let's make the terminal more user-friendly by adding some color.
By default, Git outputs information in monochrome, which can make it harder to process. Colored formatting helps you instantly distinguish file statuses: red for modified files, green for staged files. It's like reading a book without any bold text. You might miss important details. By enabling colors, you'll make working with Git more comfortable and efficient.
Activating color output is very simple. Run the command git config global color auto. The global flag will apply this setting to all your repositories. After this, commands like git status, git diff, and git log will start using colors to highlight important information. If colors don't appear, check your terminal settings. It needs to support color output. Make sure ANSI color support is enabled in your terminal settings.
It allows you to customize colors to your preference. For example, you can set modified files to appear in yellow and new files in green. Use commands like git config global color status changed yellow. Similarly, you can configure colors for branches, tags, and other elements. Experiment with the settings to find the most comfortable color scheme for you. Remember that the right colors can significantly speed up your work with the version control system. Now that the basics are set up, let's look at common mistakes to avoid.
The most common mistake is inattention when entering your email address. Spaces, typos in the domain, using a personal email instead of a corporate one. All these will make your comments anonymous. Remember, the email must match the one linked to your GitHub account. Check your settings with git config list and make sure everything is correct. An incorrect email doesn't just mean anonymity. It can cause issues with repository access in the future.
Local settings always override global ones. This is important to remember. A common mistake is duplicating the same settings in every repository. The correct approach is to set global settings once and use local settings only for exceptions. The command git config list show origin will show you where each setting comes from. This helps resolve conflicts. Remember, global settings are for everything about you as a developer, while local settings are for project-specific configurations.
If git commit opens the wrong editor or shows an error, the issue is likely with your path settings. Ensure the path to your editor doesn't to contain spaces or is specified correctly. To verify, run git config global E. This should open your global configuration file in your editor. If not, double-check your settings. Always use quotes around paths containing spaces, and use full paths to executable files.
Imagine making a dozen commits only to realize they were all attributed to the wrong email address or a username with a typo. While fixable, this would require rewriting history, an unnecessary headache. Let's verify your settings now. Open your terminal and type git config list, then filter the output for key parameters. Pay special attention to 3 things: whether your email matches your GitHub account, if your name is spelled correctly, and if your code editor opens without errors. This simple check will save you hours of corrections later. Next time, we'll discuss setting up Gitignore to exclude unnecessary files.
Congratulations! You now have a powerful tool installed that will become your faithful development companion. Think of it as having just assembled your first toolkit. Now it's time to learn how to use it. Your task today is to install and configure Git as we've covered in the lecture. This should take no more than 15 minutes, but it will give you confidence that everything is working correctly. In our next session, we'll finally experience the magic of version control and create our first commit. By the way, don't forget to verify all settings using git config list to ensure your name and email are correctly configured. This is crucial for the commits you will be making in your first repository.